Hi, Ingrid.
Hi,
How
good
are
morning.
you?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to your Values Jam, Alan.
Yeah, so this is a Values Jam guest session series, and I'm thrilled to have you here. So before we dive into the Values Jam itself, why don't you introduce yourself and the great work that you do?
So I'm Ingrid Tennessee. I am the CEO for a mental health supported charity in Southeast London. I'm also a trustee at Cumberland Lodge, which is an academic institution that empowers and supports critical conversations in order to support ethical thought leadership of the future. We work with UK students and students from PhD students and those from the Commonwealth. I'm also a trustee at the National Council for Volunteering Organisations, and I currently sit on the People and Inclusion Committee.
Wow, busy lady.
Indeed, I love it though. I love what I do. And when I'm not doing that, I'm an avid swimmer and the enabler of my family, which means all things.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I've got the Values Jam card deck here, and what we're going to do is draw a card at random. So what I'd like you to do is tell me how many times you'd like me to split the deck.
Two times, 3 times?
3 times, okay. So I've got 3 piles in front of me, pile 1, 2, or 3. Which one will you choose?
2.
2. And here I've got 10 cards. So a number between 1 and 10?
7.
7. Whoa.
Positive impact. I love it.
How good is that? So the first question is this. What does positive impact mean? And what does it look, feel, and sound like?
Positive impact is the result of actions on a person, thing, place, or surroundings. And it is kind of like, I think it's the ripple effect. So an action that causes a reaction. So something had to have happened for an impact to happen. And on this occasion, it's got to be something good that happens to have a positive impact. What that feels and looks like is, it makes, if it's to people, it makes people happy. It gives them a sense of contentment. It gives them a feeling of belonging, a feeling of valued, a feeling of being supported. It brings a laugh and a smile to their face. If it's to a place, the environment is lit up. You feel a lightness in the atmosphere as you go in. You feel the positive energy in there, just this really good vibe. And if it's your surroundings, it's just a place that's buzzing, that's really good, that just is energetic and dynamic, I think.
What a brilliant answer. And I was thinking when you were talking and just before you said the energy word, that was the word that was coming through for me. And then you mentioned it a couple of times there. And for me, positive impact is this thing around, it just feels great and full of buzz. And it is also something of magnitude. I think there's a thing of, a positive impact isn't like a little incremental improvement. That's not good enough. Positive impact has to be like bam.
It's boom, whoosh, wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Super.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, well, you just used some, I think they're called onomatopoeias, aren't they, those things? So what does positive impact sound like?
It's hey, woohoo, yippee, yippee,
Yeah, and the celebration thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think with positive impact, it really affects people emotionally, and people are like, wow, this is amazing that we've achieved this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the next question that I'd like to share with you. So, and we're going to go to the other side of where we've just been, actually, because where have you noticed a lack of positive impact?
Everywhere I look around me, if I were to be honest, in terms of people sleeping on the streets, people who are less able to achieve their potential probably standing around in groups on the street. My world is a world of, I work with a lot of disadvantaged groups, so I see this more. It's people standing around in the cold with inadequate warm clothes. It's, you know, their shoes have holes. People standing at the food bank. Oh my gosh, I've got a food bank at the bottom of my road. And I drove past there the other day and my heart bled because there were so many people standing. It was a cold day and they were just being filtered through this tiny space to go in for a little bag of food and maybe clothes. And I thought, oh gosh, you know, there's no warm space there for them to stay. There were kids in pushchairs and standing around with their parents, and my heart bled.
Yeah. I saw a program, it's probably about a year ago now, by the Roundtree organization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they interviewed a vicar in, I seem to remember it might have been Burnley. It was a town in Lancashire.
Yeah.
And he was describing how he had set up a food delivery scheme in the local community.
Yeah.
And he just described how sometimes when he went to the houses with the carrier bags, the kids were ripping them open before he could get them to the kitchen.
Absolutely.
And I just remember my heart just felt so heavy. It was like, oh my God, you know, why is it that in the, you know, the century that we're in, that is still something that society is willing to accept?
Yes, yes.
I just don't get it. I know. Understand.
I know. My street is really good and we're very good. And of course I run a charity. So it's always at the front of my mind about giving to others and making others feel that little sense of satisfaction and providing safety and comfort. And we garner support and we offer in-kind stuff. And at Christmas time, one of the things we do in my street is, and I have to say, I don't want to take credit, but I lead it because I think it's so important. So often we can leave out those people who provide us with services that we expect, that we don't really notice, like the men who empty our bins, like the postman, like the road sweeper. So I've garnered support from the women in my street. We have the Ladies of Ermine Road group, and we just put together parcels at Christmas time. And one of us, between myself and my neighbor called Valeria, we go out and we get the camera and we film when we give it to them and say, this is just a small token of our appreciation. It's not a lot, but I hope it brings a smile to your face. It's, you know, we put some alcohol, some non-alcoholic stuff in there and chocolate. So it's not your food items that you'd expect in a daily package, but it's something really nice and different.
Yeah.
And you see, like the last time we did it with the road sweeper and we gave him £40, his eyes just lit up and he's the quietest man ever. He just goes down the road, up and down, diligently, quietly sweeping the leaves, moving out of the way when you're coming with your car, stepping off the pavement onto the road with his broom and his trolley when he sees a family coming, you know. So it's those little things. The postman nearly fell over when he got his parcel, you know, because more people gave to him, interestingly enough. So what we did was Val and I later made up a better parcel, well, a bigger parcel to give to the guy who sweeps the road.
Do you know, what you're talking about here is making me think about the topic of positive impact, actually, because positive impact is often associated with the stuff that is noticeable. But what we're talking about here is only noticeable when it doesn't happen.
Yes.
And it's funny that you mentioned the bin men, actually, because, and I don't know why I thought of this. You know, we both know Kevin Munro.
Yes.
And it was, I think it must have been one of Kevin's gratitude challenges that was happening at that time. So the topic of gratitude was really front of mind for me. And I just remember going out of the front door and it was a bin collection day. And I just remember feeling a real strong sense of gratitude for how they come every week or other week. You know, it gets done. They often put the bin back where they got it from. And I just remember thinking, I'm really lucky because there are some people in some parts of the world who have to worry about how they get rid of their rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have to do that at all. It's
It's almost taken for granted, isn't it? Because it's a service that's there. You expect it comes, and when it doesn't happen, you think, where are they? Why didn't they come? Nobody emptied the bin this week.
yeah.
So, and you know, I often in the summertime I'd give them a beer. You know, well, I'd count how many are on it. I know roughly there's about 5 of them, including the driver. So they get beers, they get chocolates to share, they get cakes, so enough so that they can take back to their canteen, because they'd be sitting probably in their little cabins when they go back on site. So other people would see them coming in with their goodies and say, hey, your street gave you, we didn't. So we gave them some extra biscuits and stuff to share out, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the little things that count, Alan, you know?
Yeah.
I feel.
On this question of lack of positive impact, the thing that comes to mind for me is how we don't encourage people to realize their full potential and the full positive impact that they are able to make. And instead of that, we seem to be kind of trained in society to do the kind of little bit of improvement approach and then be satisfied with that. And I was talking to somebody about, you know, a lot of my work is with corporate organizations, and we were talking about the budget planning cycle. And it's so boring and unadventurous a lot of the time. You know, what happens in a lot of corporate organizations is like, so how much better can you do than last year? And the people that are supposed to be delivering the results obviously want to be successful, so they play it down.
Yeah.
And then there's this false negotiation game that goes on, and you end up with a target which you want to be able to make, not because it's the best you can do, but because you can satisfy your boss.
Yes.
That feels kind of just wrong.
I know. I make it my mission, I make it my goal, my aim to always be good to my people. We have done so. I thought very long and hard, because, you know, we've got a hardship, we've got a crisis going on economically and kind of politically. And I was thinking, I had my one-to-one with my people director, and I said, what else, how else, something else can be done to help people out. And we have got a very long list of stuff that I've trawled the internet to find, because I took that as my personal mission. I think of the people who work with me, who are carers, who have quite a few of our people have relatives suffering dementia. And I don't have, luckily, anyone in my life currently at that stage, but I think of it, it makes me think of my mortality and age. And, you know, when you get to that stage, when you are, my dad used to say, once a man, twice a child, because you revert back to that stage.
Yeah.
So we have started to put in place so much for our staff, including extended support for, and I don't call them staff, I call them the QVT family, because that's how I see them. I don't see them as people who come to work. I see them as people who are purpose-led and values-driven, you know, and for me, it's important that I try everything that I can to get them as much as I can and doing the right thing in the right way. Because if I look after them and they look after the beneficiaries who are vulnerable adults, then the business will look after itself. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I'm with a colleague, we're just about to launch a new program of customer experience training. I was Googling for some quotes the other day, and there's a quote by the founder of Marriott, the hotel chain. And he basically said, if you look after your employees, they will look after your guests, who will come back time and time again, and the business will be taken care of, kind of thing. And it's kind of a simplistic way of looking at it, but I think there is so much truth in it. I guess I've got a question there that's coming through for me, because when you were talking about the way you treat your employees, it feels to me as though the last couple of years, you know, through the pandemic and the rest of it, has encouraged more people to think like that. So to think of their colleagues, their employees, whatever, as human beings more than, you know, the term human resources, I think, is just dreadful. It kind of sums up the old-fashioned approach of you're
Yes.
just a resource for me to get things done.
Yes.
Do you think that the last couple of years has encouraged people to take a more human approach?
Yes, absolutely. And it's so very much needed at this time. We can no longer have command and control leadership. We cannot have autocratic leadership. I call it gracious leadership. I call it compassionate leadership. And for me, it's love-based leadership. I am involved in a community called the Enjoyable Life Series community. And we think of the butterfly effect. So you do something and one butterfly goes off and then it's, the word just spreads. It's like this ripple effect. And what we do is we talk about love in leadership, and I would like to think that we practice love in leadership. So I contributed to this book called Beyond Engagement, which is all about feeling the love. How do your people feel the love from their employers? I don't see myself as an employer. I see myself as a leader that follows my people in order that I may be able to lead them properly. And our values are dignity, excellence, kindness, respect, and I add their graciousness. So when I'm meeting new people who come on board, or when I'm talking to the people who work with us, I say to them, everything that you do and say must be launched off a platform of graciousness. I would like to think that I don't shout people down. And when I'm talking to people, someone gave me some feedback last week, actually in prep for this interview I'm doing today. And she said, you get people to do things that lots of people don't want to do. And it's the how you do it and it's the how you say it. And I thought to myself, it's true, because again, I refer to my dad. He used to say, you don't have to whip people and shout at people to get things done. You negotiate, and always finish your negotiation with a smile. Start with a smile, put a smile in the middle, and end with a smile.
Yeah, there's negotiation. There's also something about inspiring people, because it's like we're here together. So why not make the best of it while we're here together? It's a choice that everybody makes.
Absolutely.
You can choose.
Yes. You can choose to be rude, and you can choose to say, I'm the boss, I say you do. But you don't have to do that. Lots of times the great leaders don't go around saying, do you know who I am? Their words and their deeds speak, their actions and their deeds, speak louder, I think. And for me, that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's take it a bit bigger now with positive impact. So how could more positive impact improve the world?
Well, as I said, it's the butterfly effect. So if I do and act in a way, if I say things, if I act, if I behave in a way which exudes positivity, graciousness, kindness, respect, I'd like to think that somebody will take notice, and then it goes on from there. Because my son recently got some really good feedback that he was a gracious leader. And I thought, wow. And he said, Mom, I got that from you. And then, so if he can have that and he can spread that and his colleagues say that about him, or the people he works with say that, then somebody else is impacted. And I think it's kind of like a card deck. It stacks up and then it moves out, and then it's like a wave, and then it becomes an ocean, and then it becomes the world. The world is the place we inhabit and the people around us. And if we can do that in our communities and start out, by young people, I believe, are really cool, good, energetic, dynamic vessels for doing this. And I have, posters, pictures tell 1,000 words, and I believe if you kind of like, use all the aids that you have, music, the words, the lyrics of music, the spoken word, the written word, adding a thank you, a please, so grateful, and emphasizing when you're pleased, and that gratitude, I think it will have an impact. How can people not be affected by graciousness, by kindness, by respect?
They definitely are, aren't they? And it's making me think about, just imagine if the media had a focus on positive impact instead of the focus that they tend to have.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to do an experiment somehow where you took a discrete community with media and then made the media focused on positivity and positive impact, and just see what happens in that community. It would be a fascinating
Absolutely. I'd love to find out. Let me know if you're doing that. Oh my goodness. I think that would be amazing.
I don't know how we could do it, because what you'd need to do is be able to control the community. It would need to have existing communication or media in it. But it would be incredible, actually, because I'm already predicting the results, which I shouldn't do, but I'm guessing that there would be an incredible shift, and just like you've described, because it would be, excuse the term, but infectious.
Yes.
It wouldn't just be a small change; it would be a huge shift.
Yes. Yes, you know, and even the titles of people in organizations. I love the happiness officer, chief happiness officer, I'm chief lunch lady, because I'm always taking food in for the team. So nobody says to me, that's the CEO, that's the chief lunch lady coming in, you know, and it feels really nice, you know.
Yeah, and you're reminding me here of the power of words and language in creating a positive impact. So there's an exercise that I do with groups of people. And so the way that it goes is, so imagine that we're in a room with a group and I'm standing with a flip chart and a pen. I ask the group to just shout out words that they think create a positive impact. And so you get people saying things like wonderful, amazing, beautiful, fantastic, you know, those sorts of words. So you fill up the flip chart with all of those fantastic words, and then you ask people to be honest with themselves and answer this question on a scale of 1 to 10. To what extent do you personally use those words that we've got up here on the flip chart? And generally, people say a 6 or maybe a 7. And then you make the point that it is their choice.
Yeah.
And just imagine the impact that they could have if they just notched it up by 1 or 2 points and chose to use those words more regularly.
Absolutely.
And it just, you can see the light bulbs go on.
Yeah. Indeed, indeed. I love it. I talk all the time about gratitude being the door to everything. And I mean it. I feel it. And I heard someone say a while back, you've got to be hungry for it. You've got to be hungry to infect people around you with positivity. You have to be, so it has to be consistent. It has to be continuous, you know. And you hear, you know, I heard a sad story this week. Someone said to me of someone living in services for people with learning difficulties, that the boss said to the worker, you can't hug him. You're not allowed to hug him. He's a service user. And I think, oh my God, you know, like you were saying, human resources is that really cold, dispassionate word. Service user is even worse, I think, for someone who has no one, you know, a hug and a cuddle for them is something that perhaps they don't get ever, you know, some of them, because some people who've been living in institutions for most of their lives, you know, they don't get that because it's this kind of dispassionate service. If I'm going into the NHS, I'm looking to, it would be a focus of mine, language and the way we interact with others. If you see somebody in distress, you know, I know it's a pandemic and it's COVID and you're supposed to keep your distance, but a hand on the shoulder, you know, just somebody just touching your head, you know, just a little something. I know I'm doing it here, and you have to be careful about where you do it and how you do it, because of political correctness and so. Yeah. But I feel that, you know, it's about going with your intuition in that moment of humanness, when you think just a little touch or a little, you know, I'm here, I understand. Yeah. Or I'm trying to understand.
And it's also that thing that we were talking around words and the importance of words just now. it is so easy, like you said, you know, service user becomes ingrained in the organization and the way that people refer to other people. And then, unsurprisingly, their attitude towards those people comes in line with that, right?
It mirrors the title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was talking about Marriott earlier, and I ran a Marriott hotel, and in Marriott, they don't call the employees staff or employees even, they call them associates. And that term is supposed to indicate that you are fellow colleagues with each other, irrespective of your role, you're all associates.
Yes.
In our particular hotel, we chose to be very strict about using that term all the time. So if anybody heard staff or employee or whatever used, it was, look, can you please use the right terminology here? So being really on it.
Yes.
But we also decided to use it with a capital A. So associates with a capital A to really signify the importance of those people as well.
Yes.
And just by doing that, you know, in our newsletter or any emails that were sent, you always saw the capital A and associates. And I can't prove that there was a connection, but the hotel, it won the most improved employee opinion survey in the world of Marriott at that time. So this was 3,000 properties around the world. And you know, that wasn't all of it, but it was part of it, you know, to make the point that you are proud, you're an individual, you're representing this property, and you can create an enormous positive impact in doing that.
Indeed. Absolutely. I love it. I think more of us should follow and, you know, consult with our people. I have a nothing about us without us culture where I work. And I'd love to ask our people what they'd like to be called, because when people say my colleague or staff, I just think, yeah, indeed, it just has that ring. So I say my people, our people.
Yeah, and again, you know, I think the other thing here is that you won't satisfy everybody with making a choice. But actually, for me, the important thing is making that choice and then having a word that, you know, if you're 80% there, that's good enough, right?
Yes, yes.
So whether it be associates and I think colleagues is an interesting one, because I'm thinking that if you give colleagues a capital C and then you give a definition of what colleagues means in your organization, then it can be framed in a very positive
way. Yeah. Yeah, I think so, yes.
Right, so
I tend to go for warm fuzzies.
Ingrid, in ValuesJam, there's another question here which I'd like to invite you to have a go at. So what it says is, ask your own question about positive impact, beginning with who, what, where, when, why, or how.
So my own question about positive impact. How can I do more for positive impact to mean more? I'm asking myself that question.
Go on, say it again.
How can I do more for positive impact to mean more?
Okay. So my initial reaction to, if you're asking me that question, would be to raise the bar and to give more autonomy. And what comes to mind, and I mentioned this story on a call this week, actually. I was running a portfolio of properties for a client organization, and we were opening a new building with a new help desk in this new building. My client said to me, what target are we going to have for next year? And I said to him, well, can you give me some direction? He said, well, I think it needs to be a bit better than the performance of the existing help desks in the rest of the portfolio, which was fair enough. Now, they were performing at a rate of, let's call it 70%. So he said to me, do you think we could manage 72%? Now, I was new in my role. I'd just come from running 5-star hotels, where the mindset is just do your very best. It's not like, can we do a bit better? So I didn't say anything, but I took his suggestion of 72 back to my team and then said to them, the client's suggesting 72. What do you reckon? They said, well, our bonus depends on this.
Gosh.
So do you think you can get him down to 71? And so I'm just totally confused now, right? Because I'm thinking, is this good enough? It doesn't strike me as being really going for it. So what I decided to do was go back to him and ask him to be brave and not to have a target for year 1 of the operation of the new help desk. And I also asked him to guarantee the bonus to our team. And then see where it went, see what we could achieve, say to the team, what can you possibly do? And so he agreed, and we achieved 95%.
Wow.
So I think that was a long-winded way of explaining the answer, which is about having possibility as your kind of mindset rather than an incremental improvement on what went before. What thoughts do you have in terms of the answer to your own question?
Well, I think it's probably, I am really enjoying talking with you here in this Values Jam session. And I am thinking that maybe what I could do is I have various groups around me, and maybe I can, and I'm thinking aloud here, when I meet with my family, for instance, or with those groups, I can say, right, let's think of something that each of us can do this week that would impact somebody else positively. And then when you do that and you get some feedback from that person, just let the chain keep going. And I think that's something that I can do. I can continue to, when I have my all organization meeting, add my final farewell to the group challenge. I can add a challenge to that, because I always give a little bit of what I call a motivational kind of closing. And I could give them a charge and say, I want you to think of something you can do for someone else that would make that someone smile, or that would create some positivity in that person's life.
Ingrid, you're giving me tingles here, and this happens with Values Jam. So what we've discovered with these Values Jam sessions is that quite frequently people say, oh my God, this is just coming into my head, and I haven't thought about that for decades. Now, you've just done it to me. I've just had this experience. It's not decades, it's nearly a decade actually. In 2014, I ran a leadership summit in Frankfurt for a client.
Yes.
And it was something like a 3-day program, very intense.
Yeah.
But what we suggested to our client was that the teams would be split up, and we would give them a brief on the first morning, which was, by the end of our 3 days here, you've got 50 euros for your team of like 5 people. And what we would like you to do is leave a positive impact in Frankfurt. That was the brief.
Wow.
And of course, they had very little time to do it because we had a full program. So the only time they had was getting up early, or between the finish of the session during the day and the beginning of the formal dinner and stuff like that, or break times. Yeah. That's the time they had. And then we told them that on the final afternoon of the program, they would each have 10 minutes to present back what their group had done. And I tell you, it was just the most brilliant part of the whole program. And I can remember some of the examples. So one group spent their money on seeds and gave it to a local children's play group to create a herb garden.
Wow.
Another group went and bought food from a supermarket and gave it out to homeless people on the street. Another group went and bought a load of flowers and just gave them to people as they got off the train at the station coming to work in the morning.
Yes, yes.
And it was just the level of energy, you know, like we were talking earlier about you associate positive impact with energy. Everybody was really fired up about this, so much more than the official program that we were doing with them.
Wow.
So I don't know if that gives you any ideas for what
Yes.
you do in your organization, but
yes, I often talk to them about doing something for someone else, and it's Trustees Week this week, and I've made sure every single day of this week I've posted something on social media thanking our trustees, and I wrote cards. I've just put it in my rucksack because I cycle, and I've got them cards because I'm meeting them Monday for a board meeting, and I've handwritten each person's card to tell them what I like about each of them and how grateful I am for them. And I've posted a message today telling them that, you know, I hope that they felt valued and that they felt, you know, that their efforts were very, very much noted and welcomed and needed for the organization. And I hope that it brings a smile to their faces.
Yeah, and you've just that personal element is something that adds, it's kind of supercharges positive impact, doesn't it? When you
yes,
touch.
Because these are busy people. They don't have, you know, they're not really, when they see that, it comes into the mailbox, it comes and it goes, and then they see another note, and then they get a note with a bottle of wine on Monday with, you know, that card from me, and they probably think, oh wow, that's nice, and it brings a smile to their face, and hopefully they'll enjoy the plonk as well.
Does the name Douglas Conant mean anything to you?
No, not yet. I'll look it up.
I can't remember the company that he worked for. He was CEO, and he was famous for having handwritten notes of thanks to employees. And I think he talks about how he'd written thousands and thousands of these thank you notes during his time as CEO. He's on LinkedIn. And so I'm just thinking that he might be interested to know about what you've done for Trustees Week, for instance.
Okay. I do at Christmas time. Well, we can't say Christmas because we have, you know, we have a big workforce and we're inclusive in terms of what we do. So at the end of the year, I write personalized messages to all our staff. We've got 6 to 5 full-time, and we've got about 10 relief workers, and the rest of my senior leadership team does that too, and we give them a little bonus, and if whether it's a love to shop voucher or something, but we write a personal note, and every time a new person comes in, I try to send them a personalized note, and I always end off, when you've got time, stop by, I'll make you a cuppa, I'll put the kettle on, or for their birthdays or for their anniversaries. And I said, do you know how much you mean to us? And I've started changing the way I use language and letters to my people too. So for pay rises, or if I'm sending someone a note, the first thing I say is, you just don't know how much you mean to me in this business.
Brilliant.
You know, and I try to do that. And I think it's that I hope that if nothing else, I leave a legacy of graciousness behind me. You know, people know me for that.
Yeah, and you just again, I think this really human, personal touch is so valuable. And when the hotel that I ran that I mentioned earlier, I used to greet every new employee. And I used to give them 3 messages. One was that you are the best person we've seen. That's why you're here. So congratulate yourself. Don't forget that. You know, it's easy just to turn up your first day at work. The second thing was that if you need to break the rules to keep a guest happy, then do it, and then tell your boss quickly, so that we can.
I love it. I love it.
And then the third one, and bear in mind that the hotel that I'm talking about was in a 200-acre estate with a championship golf course, fine dining restaurant, beautiful building and grounds. So the final thing was enjoy yourself while you're working here, because if you can't enjoy yourself in an environment like this, there's something wrong with you.
I love it.
And that was it.
Great boss, you. Great boss.
All right, so we're coming to the end of the Values Jam now, Ingrid. So this is always the final question, and it is this: what are you encouraged to do differently about positive impact as a result of our conversation today?
I will make sure that I steal something from you here, and that is when I welcome people on board, I will say, remember, you're the best person. That's why we got you here today. I'll probably ask you to fine tune that one for me because I didn't write it down. But remember, you're the best of everyone we've seen. And yes, I'll personalize my letters more. I will leave my people with a challenge after every organizational meeting or team meeting to say, it would really be lovely if you could go out there and touch somebody, either in gesture, word, or action, so that they can feel, you bring a smile to their face or you leave a positive impact in their life. So I think that's what I'm going to do differently.
Brilliant.
And try to sustain that.
All right, and mine is a very simple one. I'm going to get a gift box of some kind for the dustbin men.
Oh, I love it. I think that's great. That's great, with a nice little note, right?
Yes, a personalized note.
Yes.
You know, that, like I've shared with so many people that story about feeling grateful for the fact that they come, but I've not told them actually. So
well, listen, I have loved it. I've loved talking with you. I didn't know what to expect. And it's just really been a joy, you know, to laugh. And I feel very energized for my interview this afternoon. And I feel really happy, really, yes, just nice and warm and fuzzy.
Well, do you know what? I can't resist the temptation to say, I'm glad our discussion has had a positive impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. I thank you. I thank you so much. And keep up your wonderful good work. And may you always be abundant in everything you do, say, and are.
Thank you very much, Ingrid.
Okay, Alan. Speak soon again. Okay, bye.